Hey guys, I'm Emily Tiamslin. This is my husband Aaron Tiamslin. We're going to be talking about business maturity today. Um, so I understand if some of you guys are scared of emotions. I used to hate emotions, but we're going to go into emotional maturity today. I used to be what I called like a science mind, and I thought I was just pure ration, like kind of like Data. I wanted to be like Data, but then I ended up getting really sick because I wasn't dealing with my feelings. And there is now science out there that proves that if you can't process your emotions, if you're not aware of your emotions and all you do is suppress your emotions, that you get sick. It can cause cancer and all sorts of illness. Um, So that's why I'm talking about this today, because one of the secret things that could kill your business is an immaturity with your emotions, which means basically I don't want to look at them. I'm not going to look at them. I'm just going to push them down, move on. I'm going to pretend to be happy and that'll be happy. I'm going to just, it's kind of like close that door, push it in the door and close it. No matter how big and powerful it is, I'm just like, oh, I'm pushing on that door. And doing that can really, that's the one sabotage. It could really come up and destroy your business if you're not staying on top of your emotions, our emotions.
Also, business requires you to be progressive. If you're not continually evolving and adapting as a business, you're going to fail. And likewise, with regard to your as a business owner or somebody within the business, if you're not continually stretching and growing and progressing, well, it's an escalator. You're either going up or you're going down as a business or as a business owner. And there's no stagnation. There's no such thing. If you're not growing, you're declining. And so this is why it's critically important for us to discuss emotions, because it requires us to develop emotional maturity and grow and continually evolve in our business in order for the business itself to be able and capable of adapting and growing likewise.
And creating a successful business is really for people that have high goals. They're creating these big goals. And anyone that's going to create a really big goal is going to deal with really difficult emotions. Really, it will completely take you all the way, and you'll have a really huge roller coaster. Which, if you think of like Disneyland or something, this is great because you're gonna have the full life experience, which is one of the reasons we love going into business, is because it really pushes us into like, you're going on the hardest roller coaster there is. We're going to feel all the emotions.
Yep. You're going to have the highest of highs. You're going to have the lowest of lows. And it's the people who encounter these lowest of lows at times and are not wanting or willing to feel their emotions. Those emotions subconsciously start weighing on us. And if we don't process them in a healthy way, it'll just be an anchor to the ship that just slows us down where we can't adapt. And that's where we were talking about this book, The Myth of Normal, where Emily recently read it and she's sharing it with me. She's saying, wow, there's so much evidence now showing that if we don't properly process our emotions, but if we just contain our emotions, there's evidence now showing that leads directly to disease and cancer.
All sorts of diseases
and it's just, it weighs you down, right?
Psychosomatic.
And we don't want that for the business. Yeah. For a business, it's very similar to a human organism in the way that it does have its own life. And if it's not growing and evolving, well, then it's dying. And if it's not able to adapt, then it's going to slow down to a stagnation. So it requires an emotional maturity from a business perspective.
Keep it open for a second longer.
In order for the business to have capacity for progress, we must be willing to feel the feelings that come along with the roller coasters.
And we're not coming from a place of like we're really good at this. We're still in it, and we still have days where it's just hard emotions, and we're still and we're processing and dealing with it. And I think most people that are highly, highly successful are really good at certain really difficult emotions. And we'll get to that. I did want to really briefly talk about Dr. Joe Dispenza. He has tons of work and tons of evidence all about this. And I highly recommend all of his books. One of my favorite, though, is You Are the Placebo. And it talks just about how much our feelings partake in our journey in life and how it affects so many levels of our experience. And our body, the material is affected highly by our emotional experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes we have a tendency to label emotions like, oh, that's a bad emotion, or that's a good emotion.
I shouldn't have this
or
emotion.
I feel sad about this, or whatever. And we just try to like block that and shut it away. And in doing so, it doesn't dissolve the emotion. It doesn't resolve. There's no resolution. And if there's no resolution, we're just not conscious of it. It's on a subconscious, deeper, and it just slows the whole thing down.
Because if you just ignore your emotions and put them in a closet, they don't leave the house. They don't leave. They're still in your body.
And they will slow down the business.
And it could come up and really sabotage the whole thing.
It will halt the business.
Yeah. So we want to talk about one of the hardest emotions that all of us get to feel in this wonderful life when we're here on earth, we're here in this amazing experience, and we all get to experience dread at some point in our life. And when you're building a business or you have really high goals, you're going to feel dread. And what I love about that is just knowing that if the bigger your goals are, the more dread you're going to feel. So you're totally good. It's totally normal that you feel dread. And for me, that's a huge relief. And it's a relief to know, oh, it's normal. Like, it's normal to feel dread when you're doing something really hard. And there's things where I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, I don't want to do that. And what to do with it. So what we're doing is we're just going to talk about dread, how to be aware of dread in a way that serves us and that we can use powerfully to build a business or to build toward your goals and dreams.
Mm-hmm. And just knowing we're safe to feel and safe to process these emotions is so helpful, because being safe to visit these things helps us not just resolve them, but to process them in healthy ways where it can become rocket fuel for us in ways that are creative and productive, rather than like anchors on a ship that weigh us down. And so it's not that we don't want to just be like, okay, that's an emotion that is undesirable, and then block it out. What we're suggesting is that we are safe to feel emotions. In fact, it is necessary for us to visit emotions in a mature way in order for the business to survive and to progress. And therefore, we're visiting this emotion called dread, and we're going to suggest that we are safe to feel dread, right? So what is dread? And I want to say safe to feel. It's almost so in the emergency department where I also work. Children will come in with lacerations, and they'll be bleeding, and they'll be so scared of the idea of a needle, right? That's going to help numb that pain. And what seems to be the common thing that works, at least most of the time, is really reassuring them that they are safe to feel fear, and that this is a safe place. And if you're afraid, that's okay. They're safe to feel that, and they're also safe to feel pain until we can get them out of pain. And just knowing that they are safe to experience these things, it really puts them at ease, where they're not just trying to resist, or like, oh, I don't want to feel this, and like this unwillingness to experience. And I think as business owners, we do the same thing. We might have a resistance to feeling a certain thing, but what we are suggesting is that we are all safe to feel, and that it is necessary for us to feel these emotions in order for our business to have a productive and progressive outcome.
And we're going to have more videos on how to process emotions. Most emotions largely come from our thinking. Some of it also comes from the nervous system and just hardwiring from childhood and such. But a lot of it we do have pretty good control over with our thoughts. We believe that our thoughts generally create your feelings. And once in a while it goes the other way, where the feeling comes up first before anything. But that's, in those books it'll bring that up.
Each day we have 60,000,
Yeah.
80,000 thoughts that come
It's all
through our
happening
day.
so fast, it's not very
We're
clear.
not even conscious of most of our thoughts, right? We're just the tip of the iceberg, just barely.
We'll have a video specifically about processing emotions and how to process emotions.
So dread, let's visit this. And we're safe to visit this. What is it? Dread is kind of the sense of apprehension. It's fear. It's reluctance, right? It's kind of a resistance. And some examples of things that we might dread include like cleaning. Let's get back to where this thing is. Cleaning, maybe.
Well, for me, it's cleaning. I know that I usually have dread before I start cleaning, and then as soon as I'm cleaning, I'm like, hey, this is great. I love it. This is kind of therapeutic. It's like way great. And taxes. And I don't know if I ever get to the point where I'm like, I love this with taxes.
Yeah, you might still feel the dread.
But sometimes it's fun, like QuickBooks. I've done a lot of QuickBooks, and I actually do get to a point with QuickBooks that I'm like, oh, this is really fun. I like this equation. I can just keep going and doing this formula or whatever. But
some deep creative work with our business, if it takes website creation, article writing, something that's like, oh, this is so tedious, or it's so like, I hate doing this, right? What we're suggesting is that you don't just change and get out of dread, but you recognize it and you're willing to feel it, actually.
As you move forward.
So that's what dread is. Oh, I should definitely not move this that way. Okay. Dread sprints. So Brooke Castillo, she's one of our favorite.
Say Castillo.
Castillo. She's one of our favorite people, even though we've never met her. We feel like we're family, basically. So Brooke has podcasts that she puts out, and a lot of it is emotional maturity type. It's life coaching for those who want to build a business or want to be successful in life. What she suggests is that every emotion originates from a thought, and if we're willing to uncover what our thinking is, we're able to then process our emotions.
We can go more into that in a different video, but we just wanted to give her credit because the dread sprints she's coined that phrase, so to speak, for her business, and she's trying to reach, her goal is to make $100 million, and it's really fun to watch her because she's basically saying, in order to do this, 30% of my creation, 30% of building this business and reaching this goal of $100 million is dread. And if you think that really successful people are just like, oh, so happy all the time, it's so great, I'm just so happy, and that's what success is, she's like, you're way, way wrong. It's really hard, and you're going to be experiencing a lot of dread, a lot. So, and dread is one of the hardest emotions. So we're just saying, like, if you could be willing to allow and feel that, and quickly go into, just do the thing that you're dreading. And there's no harm in it. When you really get to the point with feelings that it's not going to hurt you. It's like, it's just a feeling. I can do this and take the feeling with me, and I can move into action safely. I'll be safe as I move into this. And I start, let's say, I want to go exercise at the gym. And for me, it's really hard just to put on my gym clothes. I could just tell myself, hey, you're safe to put your gym clothes on and feel all the feelings while I'm feeling, oh, I hate putting on my gym clothes. I hate how tight these pants are or whatever. You can feel that. And just remind yourself you're safe. I'm safe to feel that while I'm putting on my sports bra, which feels tight. I don't know. It's just not as fun as putting on my comfy sweats at night. So we need to be willing. When we willingly move forward, we start gaining trust with ourselves. And we start when we start actually doing things that we don't want to do in a safe way, and then we get, honestly, okay, you guys, the dopamine, you get a dopamine hit. You get the biggest dopamine hit when you actually do the thing you didn't want to do. It's kind of like, I almost miss it, but I kind of don't. I almost miss college because of finals week. And I remember the dread and the reports and all the things that are due and the tests. And I remember feeling that dread. And then I remember after everything's done, and if I did really well, and I feel like, holy cow, I nailed all of that, there's like no better feeling. It's like the best feeling. Mm-hmm. Huge dopamine. So when we just move towards something and we get it done, we get a huge dopamine hit. It's better than even brownies. It's better than anything because it's a genuine, clean dopamine. It's clean. It's pure. It's coming right from your brain saying, hey, you did a good job. You just did that. And that's awesome. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. So there's something in our subconscious that we know we're dreading. There's something, I mean, think about it. Like, what in your business do you just not want to do, but that you kind of know it's an important thing that needs to get done? Whether it's accounting, whether it's website. You can think of it. You know
whatever
it is.
You know what it is.
You know what you're dreading, right? You know it.
We know what it is.
And it's there anyways. Even if you're not going to address it, it's still there. And now it's weighing on you, and it's in your subconscious. And so if you could either move towards it as soon as you recognize, you're like, oh, okay, that's what I'm feeling, and here's why I'm feeling it. Because that's why it's valuable to know what you're feeling. As soon as you could recognize, oh, wait, that's dread. That's the name that I remember. That's dread. That's going to lead to something. Like, you're like, oh, okay, why am I feeling dread? And then it's like, oh, I need to do this.
Otherwise,
right?
It'll stop you.
I need to create the proposal. I need to talk to this person.
If you don't name it and label it and say, there it is, you'll let it stop you. Because without knowing it and labeling it, you're just like, oh, I don't like that feeling every time I think of that, so I just won't do it.
Yes. And it's like, okay, we've got to, I need to talk to that. I need to make this sales call, one more sales call, one more email, one more whatever. Like, we're dreading. We don't want to do it, right? But if you prolong it, you don't get the dopamine, right? Until like months and months, and you finally get it done. It's like, oh, good, I got it done, right? But the worst thing is it feels like almost like a forever marathon. So you really, like, if you recognize it, you're like, okay, I need to get this done because of, this dread. There's something about this dread.
Putting it off, and you put it off. You're like, I'm going to do it, but I don't want to do it now.
You could either avoid it, or you could just climb up that mountain. You could do that dread sprint like she talks about. But if you don't just climb and sprint, you're going to be stuck in this forever marathon. It's going to weigh you down.
This is literally where Nike made a lot of money by coining "Just Do It." Mm-hmm. I mean, it's basically she's taking "Just Do It." Just do it.
Just do it.
With "Just Do It," you do need to have some emotional maturity to know that the feeling is safe to feel. Mm-hmm. Don't put it in a closet. Don't try to suppress it, because that will end up coming through in sickness and depression, and also, like, really, we can't just bottle things up. You can't. It's still there. You're just not looking at it. So it doesn't work. It doesn't actually go away when you cover it up.
So the key here is to learn to recognize it when you feel it, and then just choose to make friends, right? Like, we are going to be buddies. I'm going to take you with me, dread, and we're just going to step right into that discomfort zone, okay? So that leads us into our next Eat That Frog, Brian Tracy, classic, right? What do you most dislike? Well, that's the one thing you probably should prioritize as one of the very first things that you just knock it out. Because if you could eat that frog, like Brian Tracy says, first thing in the day, anything and everything after that is just, it's going to taste way better, right? Just
the rest of the day just has a better feeling because you already did the hardest thing, the thing that your brain was totally terrified of.
Yes. So successful people do the things that unsuccessful people don't want to do. We've heard that so many times, right? It's so true. The people who really get things done, they get uncomfortable. So this brings us to this comfort zone here. And I actually really, really like this comfort zone thing here. So this comfort zone in the middle here, where you feel safe and in control. The fear zone is where you could find excuses, or you're affected by other people's opinions, or you lack some confidence. Learning zone, you're acquiring new skills. You extend your comfort zone. This is where you deal with challenges and problems. And then finally, the growth zone is you're setting new goals that are stretching you beyond your current capacity. You're conquering objectives, you're finding purpose, you're living your dreams, but I would also propose that you're also feeling dread in that growth zone. 30% of the time, at least. If you avoid dread, you're not going to be really growing.
The bigger your goal is, the more you're going to have a bigger range of emotions. It's like a little roller coaster versus a really big, so if I have a really big goal, in life is 50-50, at least we believe pretty much.
Like 50% good feelings, 50% bad feelings, right? You're going to encounter them.
No, this is the bad feeling part when it comes, and don't jump ship. Just stay in the coaster, stay in it, and just be like, okay, she said that she was saying, like, I lean a lot on Brooke Castillo. She's so freaking amazing.
Yeah. And
she reaches all her goals. And what she does is she doesn't jump ship. She says, this is the part where it's hard and I'm going to feel shame or dread or discomfort.
Fear or pain or whatever it is.
Also to bring up, Brene Brown, vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Vulnerability is so key now. And we have all this research from Brene Brown. If you want to look up Brene Brown, I didn't put her on here, but we'll put her in another one.
She's so great.
Because we get a lot from her too.
If you stay comfortable, you're not going to be vulnerable. And Brene Brown says that really vulnerability is where you connect with your employees. Vulnerability is where you are willing to connect with yourself and with possibilities, and you're willing to put yourself out there if you're vulnerable, versus staying in that comfort zone. It's you can either choose to be a donkey or a unicorn, right? That's flying high. And so that's where sometimes our identity plays a real big part into this. We often draw that line around, or that circle in the sand, and say, okay, this is Aaron. This is me. I am within this circle in the sand, and this is how I operate, and I don't operate outside that because this is my comfort zone, right? And what we're suggesting is that it is dreadful to take a step outside of that circle in the sand. It is dreadful to step towards and beyond your current comfort zone and your identity. And
it's not really. It's just that
it could be. It could be scary.
The mind may perceive it as terrifying.
and so
it's not dreadful. It's just the mind perceives it as dreadful.
But sometimes it is dreadful, and you hold the feeling and you walk towards it for these dread sprints and these dread climbs or whatever. Because then you can discover your possibilities. You can discover what's possible for your business if you operate in ways that you have never operated before. If you're setting goals for yourself, let's say New Year's resolutions, that are new places, new horizons than you've ever thought possible, that's going to require you to then be somebody that you've never been. And that's stepping beyond.
It's going to require us to be who we've never been.
Yes, it's going to require me.
I don't even want to be using the word "you" so much because we're
trying to do it right now.
And
making a video here. It's not like the most comfortable, wonderful thing in the whole world, but it actually gets really fun when you get into it. But organizing and articulating and processing.
And what I want to say is things that our minds say are dreadful are often things that if we do after practicing quite a bit become quite beautiful. It's like the piano. Have you ever seen someone from Juilliard play the piano or the violin or something? Like, at first it was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just, wow. What a joy. And then you can see that they're full of joy as they, of course it was emotional going through all that. But eventually, when I'm doing the dishes, it's to start doing the dishes, it takes that little bit of like, I don't want to, but then if you just move into doing the dishes, and I'm using dishes as like a business crap that you don't want to do, the parts of the business that you really don't want to do. When you start moving into doing the dishes, you're noticing how safe you are, you're noticing how held you are, you're noticing the warmth of the water, the suds, maybe go into that present moment and you can find something that you enjoy. I know every time I have been amazed at how much I can enjoy the thing I was dreading. But I had one more thing to say. Now I can't remember it.
It was so good, though. It was so good. I want to emphasize that as business owners, we don't want to just classify emotions for the purpose of avoiding them. We want to classify them for the purpose of being willing to step into them, into the area of discomfort from what we're accustomed to. And in doing so, we actually will find that we are safe and that we are comforted. That in a spiritual sense, the comforter will then have a purpose. And sometimes that takes us willing to get uncomfortable. Otherwise, if we just stay where we are in our comfortable, sweet, routine, like this is how my business always has been. I've never ventured into search engine optimization. We are a traditional, we do the things the way they've always been done, and we don't need to learn it. Then you're going to get what you've always got.
You won't stay competitive, that's for sure, because everyone else is moving along. So.
Yep. What else were you going to say?
I don't know, but we are going to have other videos giving you some tools and great tools that we use within our business to help with emotions, and it's a tool to help us organize and use that tool to deal with our emotions. And they will come up. Even if you say, oh, I don't believe in them, sorry, but if you're human, you have emotions.
Yeah, so, if you're in business.
So, and people will really appreciate you because you're suddenly going to seem very mature with your emotions, and that means you're going to know what to do with them when they come up. You won't be taken along the river. You won't be just completely at their whim and fancy, because if you don't have emotional maturity, you will your whole life is going to be dictated by however you're feeling.
Yeah, and having
and you don't want that.
Having tolerance with your own emotional maturity allows you tolerance with other people's emotions. And if you can have tolerance for when other people freak out, or when other people are so anxious or scared or whatever, you can help other people process theirs.
So much better.
And as a business owner, having emotional maturity it's really emotional capacity. And if the more capable you are, the more you are able to lift your business and lift your employees.
You become the ground. You become the rock.
You can be inspiring.
And your business can be created on a strong foundation and not this crazy weather pattern. Because if you're really believing every single thing that comes along with your emotions and you just jump on board, you're literally going to be like the weather. It's like, what's coming today? Yeah. Who knows? And everybody's like waiting for the boss to come in. However, whatever the weather is today, But we can develop emotional maturity, and it will make a huge difference in achieving goals.
Okay, thanks guys.
Thanks.